Hello, welcome to my May video newsletter. I'm so happy to have you stop by. This month's video is going to be all about my trip to the UK to research upcoming books. As you hopefully already know, I've been writing my Gentleman Scholars books for a while now. I'm actually in edits for book 2, A Chemist and a Companion. So the timing is really perfect. Because of that series, visiting and touring Oxford was really important to me. And I have to say, the tour of Oxford did not disappoint. But first on our trip, we went to Scotland. The intention was to hike Pirate of the West Highland Way. All I can say is, wow, I had no idea how much I would love Scotland. It was far more beautiful than I expected. Edinburgh was amazing. We weren't there nearly long enough. I didn't realize how much history was there. The really cool thing is there was this new section of the city that was actually built, so would have been brand new in my time period, so the Regency era. So I'm for sure going to have to set some books there. I really hope that we'll be able to go back one day and spend a lot more time, because aside from the driving on the other side of the road that I found very stressful, I loved everything about Scotland. The sheep, the scenery, the people, the history, everything was wonderful. Our hike did not disappoint, despite the fact that it was actually the only true rain day of our whole trip. Despite everything that you might have heard about the United Kingdom, it didn't actually rain any other day. Well, maybe a little bit of sprinkles a couple of days, but it sure made up for the lack of rain on our hike day. It really poured the whole day. We were planning on doing 14 kilometers, which is about, I think, just over 9 miles. We were able to cut out a little portion at the beginning, about 4 kilometers. So we did 10 kilometers, which is, I think, close to 7 miles. But it was amazing. Despite the rain, we we got soaking wet, but we had an amazing time. The scenery is just, and it's not such a difficult hike, the West Highland Way. It's just long, but it's amazing. So if I ever have an opportunity, the very last section, so it's kind of divided into 7 sections. We did the 6th section. The 7th section, if I ever get another chance, that's the one I really want to do. It's the longest, but I feel like it's kind of the most remote. Plus, you end up at a city called Fort William, which we drove kind of through, but didn't really stop. So I would love to explore that in the future, but that's next time. So after Scotland, when the true research portion of my trip began, we took a train to Oxford and had a guided tour of the Bodleian Library and Radcliffe Camera. So many tidbits from that tour are going into especially the Gentleman Scholars series, but maybe even other books. It really fired up so many ideas for me. So I was very excited. That's actually why I'm a little more casually dressed today. You can see in support of my scholars, I got a t-shirt or a sweatshirt from the university. So I was really excited about that. And you can see, oh, is it reversed? Anyways, there's a 31 on the arm, which is referring to 1231, when the school was legally established, but they actually have a competition between them and Cambridge, because Cambridge was legally established earlier than Oxford, but Oxford claims that they actually established their school long before 1231. I think it was like 1209 or 1206, but anyway, that was just a neat little tidbit that I think I'm going to have to put into my book, that some of the scholars must have to be in competition with each other. But I'm going to try to add in some pictures here. So I don't know if I'm going to insert some music or what to show you some of what we saw. After Oxford, we drove to Petworth House. Now, please take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because if you're into art, you'll love Petworth House. Unfortunately, I just wanted to tour the house. I didn't realize that the tour only consisted of the staterooms, which contains a truly impressive art collection. But I was actually really disappointed because I wanted to see the house. Like, I'm trying to, for the next series that I'm going to write, it's going to be a family that is living the seven sisters living in an earl's house. So I wanted to have a layout to kind of base it on. So I was expecting to base it on Petworth House, but they didn't allow me to see the house. It was only um the the staterooms. So I actually have despite how disappointed I was taking a ton of pictures, door frames, window wells, mantelpieces. Some of the doors had these really neat locks. So I was taking pictures everywhere, but I have a really funny story based on this disappointment about the art versus the pictures I was taking. So I asked my husband to take a picture of me. I found this semi-hidden door, like, it was decorated. You could see the cut in the wall. It wasn't truly hidden, but anyway, I asked my husband to take a picture because I was figuring it's probably like for the servants, and I wanted to stand beside it to show the size. And so there was this like attendant in the room, and she was like, "Oh, do you know what that is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the servant's door." She's like, "What?" And I repeated myself. I think it's probably the servant's door. And she's like, "What?" With a really puzzled frown on her face. And so, like, I know I have a different accent than she did, but I thought I wasn't. I thought I was being clear. So I said, "Okay, you tell me what it is." And so then she proceeds to tell me all about the painting that was on this side of me. And so I had to like really try to keep my composure because I didn't want to insult her by telling her that no, I was actually interested in this door that had nothing to do with the art in the room. So it was really beautiful, Petworth House. Especially if you're into art, totally go tour it. But they didn't even have any. I just wanted to see because like at Blenheim Palace, for example, some of the bedrooms run into each other rather than a hallway. And I'm like, with sisters, like that might be fun or might not be fun, like depending. I just wanted to see, is that how all the houses were, or might there be a different way of having a layout? And they didn't even have a map of because somebody still lives there. Like I forget the name of the official family that they used to own it. The family donated it to the historical society of some sort, but still it, made arrangements that they can still live there. So it's still kind of their private home. So I guess I understand they wouldn't want, everybody to know where their private bedrooms are and whatever, but anyway, that was a me problem. So after I found that out, we had planned other tours and I looked into those and it turned out that's a very common thing that you only tour the staterooms with the art collection. So I had to dig a little harder to find somewhere else to tour. But after Petworth, we went to this amazing, it was the Weald and Downland Living Museum, which was so awesome. I have to give a little shout out to my friend Melanie Nichols. She recommended this place. She actually has been many times to the UK for research. So check out her books because they're very well researched. But this particular place, they set up this museum on a 40 acres park, and they go around and save old buildings from being demolished. So they still get demolished, but they go with professionals and dismantle the house and then bring it to to this park and rebuild the old buildings, especially if they can kind of have evidence of its provenance, like what it's been through, and if they can get even like old artifacts from the particular time period, because really old houses have probably been renovated a bajillion times, but it was really cool. And then they have like some people dressed up, or at least like operating things, because they have like an old flour mill that they have set up, and it actually grinds wheat into flour, and then they bake with it there on the premises. So that particular day that we were there, the big mill wasn't running, but they had this tiny little hand mill. Well, not tiny, it was actually probably like about this big. And so we were actually able to mill some flour. So that was super cool. After that, after I had researched where we could see an interior, we did go actually after that to Portsmouth, which was also a super amazing. But the part that I wanted to tour, the historic dockyard, I didn't realize. Yeah, I really should have done more research before my research trip. But anyways, I didn't realize that it's actually like a current naval base. So you had to have a ticket to enter, and it was very high security. When we arrived, it was closed, and then we had to leave the next. Anyway, I thought you could see more without actually touring it, but because of the circumstances, um, it, they they've really controlled the access, which all the power to them. That's their right. But Portsmouth of itself, despite what I didn't get to see, was still very amazing. We actually had a meal at this old pub that has been continuously running as a pub since like 1707. So that made my little history lover's heart rejoice. After that, we were heading back to London, and I dug in and found a house that you can see more of, Syon House. I actually had never even heard of it before going there, but it's still privately owned by a Duke of I've forgotten what's his name, but they don't live there. That's not their primary location. But the tour guide there was so informative. I found that very fascinating. And we couldn't tour the entire house, but they were willing to show me enough that I was very happy with, seeing layout and how things work. And the really neat thing with Syon House is it was built on an old Tudor abbey. So I didn't know this before, but the style of houses is like a square built around a courtyard. So from the outside, it almost, I don't want to say it looked plain, but it almost looked plain, but it was so awesome inside. And that Duke's ancestors had done major renovations just before my time period. So that how it would have been probably for my time period. So that was really great to see. So I think my purpose of researching, I'm pretty sure I'm going to base the house on that style, because I liked that courtyard idea. There could be all sorts of juicy storylines with the courtyard. And then that house also had this amazing conservatory. So I'm not sure if my characters will have the conservatory at their house or if I will have it at somebody else's house, but for sure there's going to be conservatory in some upcoming stories because it was beautiful. I'll add some pictures here. After that, we did spend a couple days in London, but by then we were kind of exhausted and just wandered around. It wasn't any more research. We just ate and looked at Buckingham Palace. The king wasn't home. We went to Covent Gardens, which doesn't look anything like it would have looked in the Regency period, but it's still super fun. Yeah, so all around, it was an amazing trip. Now, before I close off and say goodbye, I do want to tell you about one of my author friends. And this author friend, I've actually met her in person. She's quite lovely. Mindy Strunk, or Mindy Burbridge Strunk, you might see on some of her books. She loves all things history and romance, which makes writing clean romance right up her alley. When she isn't living in her alternate realities, she is married to her real life Mr. Darcy and trying to raise 5 proper boys. They live happily in the beautiful mountains of Utah. Subscribe to her channel to see weekly videos with other authors and audiobooks. I did check out her channel. It looks like she has 6 or 7 complete audiobooks up on her channel, which are human narrated and all together in one file. So you'll be able to spend hours of enjoyment listening to her lovely books. As well, she has some fun conversation videos with author friends. So you'll really enjoy her channel. Please check it out. I will link it below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my video here and come back and listen to the rest of my books. Thanks for visiting, and we'll talk to you soon.